So today is Tuesday, and today we've had a delay start. So I'm here at 9 o'clock, which gives me a couple of hours before the kids start to arrive. Funny story, we were actually in school yesterday. Yesterday actually was a pretty intense day for us because I had a lot of the folders I needed to give them. They're brand new folders that you would have seen in Wednesday's video, but I handed out brand new folders. I finished up with their schedules as far as this is your schedule for the time being unless anything is to happen, and kind of had them laminated all nice and pretty inside of their folders. We had visitors coming from multiple different schools to kind of view the MAC team and see what it is that we are doing. Bells are ringing. But to see kind of what it is that we are doing, how we're implementing the MAC team, what does it kind of look like for a typical day for us. So they were here for the entire morning yesterday. They left when we left, basically. We ended up getting dismissed at 11:30 because there was ice weather, so we ended up getting a lot of ice yesterday. I am not joking, it was like boom, it was bad. Like all of a sudden we're walking out and everything is covered in ice. Like I almost fell 3 times just walking to my car. Luckily I was able to make it home safe, although I did make some little videos in my phone that I want to show you right now. Bouncing off of my car. Oh my goodness. I had little bits of ice that were bumping off of my car, and there was an accident on the road. People were driving at 10 miles per hour. I did make it home safe. Everybody made it home safe, which is what was kind of which was most important to everyone. And then we spent the rest of the day at home. We kind of had some movies with the kids. My husband and I watched a movie yesterday, and it was nice, although I don't know how much more I can take of this kind of weather and missing school, because I feel off, the kids are off. Even yesterday, trying to get them back into the rhythm, especially with, when was it? I think we had Wednesday or Thursday we were off, and then it was Thursday that we were off. Friday we had a delayed start. So it was just, it's been crazy, and it's hard to get the kids back into the motions and the rhythm of things. So today hopefully is going to be a little bit of a better day. I know it is a delayed start, but it is what it is. It's nice in that yesterday we got out early, so I think what I'm just going to end up doing, I'm keeping all my plans, but I've only taught the first half of the class, so now I'm going to do my second half of the day. I ended up having to change out some schedules yesterday just because of chorus and band. I realized that the group that I had at 9:20 or 9:40, they were not coming back until 10 minutes after my lesson had started, so that didn't really fit for their schedule. So we ended up having to go back to the drawing board, and I have a few new, I have about this many schedules that now I need to go back and laminate and give them the corrected version. So we decided to go ahead and add 2 little asterisks up at the top just to say, hey, this is the updated version, so that we're not getting incredibly confused. So I need to laminate these this morning and get these ready to go. I also need to kind of update some of my plans as far as what I had for the remainder of the week, which is going to be okay. I was going around this morning. I need to send out an email because I was going around to my partner's rooms. So we each have different genres in our rooms. I have fantasy, I have graphic novels, I have poetry, and I think I have animal fiction. Yes, pretty sure. But anywho, so I needed to look for, have you guys read How to Steal a Dog? It is by the same author as this book. Such a good read. I don't know if you've been watching me for a while, but when I went to Texas with Mr. G, my cousin, we went to the Get Your Teach On conference, and we stopped at a one of those places where they it's the secondhand bookstores. I couldn't think of the word. but the secondhand bookstores, and I picked that book up at that time. And I remember getting into the airport and I had to wait. I read that entire book before the plane even took off. Like, I was so into it. Well, I have a 5th grade group, compromised of like 4th and 5th grade, I think it is, or maybe 5th and 6th grade. Anywho, I can't remember all their grades. Like, they all just kind of blend in. You know, they're students at this point. They just want to learn. But I have like a 5th grade curriculum group that I am instructing now, and for reading. And I really wanted to, I don't typically do this, but I really wanted to go ahead and start kind of pulling out some novels and seeing if they can really apply some of the skills that we've been learning to that text. And what's great with the 5th grade curriculum is that there's a lot of compare and contrast. So what I thought would be wonderful is, since we've already read this one as a huge group, I can use this to kind of guide my instruction and have the kids kind of start dissecting this piece of it, but then I want them to go back through and apply it to the how to steal a dog. And then we're gonna do a nice little comparison of the 2 books, since it's part of the standards, so it's what I gotta teach. But yeah, I thought that would be a really good idea. So I need to send out a message, because I don't have enough copies for everyone, and see if the people in my building might possibly have enough copies for my small group. Crossing my fingers there. So you guys know how much I love like my little organization and my my little binders and all of that good stuff. I think what I'm gonna end up doing is I printed out a copy of all of the kids' schedules, and they're sorted out by homeroom in alphabetical order. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bind it using my little spiral. I know you guys have seen me use this before. The GBC Pro Click. I think I'm going to bind this sucker so that I can always look to see what kids are where. I just need to add in some pieces of cardstock to separate out the homerooms, add a cover to it and a back, and then I'll be good to go. That's what I'm gonna do. Let me go get some cardstock. For it being a delay today for the morning, it was actually a really good day, and it's really sunny outside, and that just kind of, I think it cheers up my mood. I think all the snow and all the cloudiness has been like raining on my parade. Anyways, so the kids did really well today. It was just like your normal day. We went over kind of routines and procedures. I need to head out a little bit early today. It is my son's birthday. It is Blaine's birthday tomorrow, so he is turning 4 years old, and I needed to go pick up just a couple of things for his birthday, and then I'm gonna get balloons and some decorations later on tonight so that my husband can take it to my in-laws, because we're gonna go to my in-laws tomorrow for like his little birthday bash. So I'm gonna head out and be able to get some of those things before too late. And I need to pick up food for dinner. I've been really bad at planning my meals this week. Before I actually head out, I did want to show you a couple of things that we did a little bit differently. So when we were before break, if you've been following me for a little bit, you know that we've been doing learning targets. And so we had like a learner targets page where the kids would come in, they would write down the unit, their learning target for the day, and the task that they needed to complete. However, because the kids are sometimes working in different rooms, it's really hard for us to be able to post up, you know, have 3 different teachers and all of the different groups that everybody's doing posted in every single room. So we ended up deciding to use Schoology a little bit more, which is like our online learning system, where we have kind of our courses available for the kids. We put up kind of their folders and what they're doing. So what we decided to do is we created folders in our ELA, in our math course, that go along with the rotation. So when they go to the ELA course, they'll see, you know, Mrs. Spackman in there, so they'll click on Mrs. Spackman's reading group. Inside of there, they'll see the rotations for which I teach reading. They'll find their rotation that they meet with me, and then they'll be able to see their learner tasks in there. But I still wanted to keep out their learning targets available to them, so I ended up changing it just a little bit in my room. So now when they come to group, they're gonna see my little learner tasks right here. here. So for each of the different rotations that I teach in, I will have the unit that they're in, and then along with the target that they're going to be learning for that day or consecutive number of days, however it may be. But that's kind of what I've posted there. You like my little basketball hoop? I love it. Love, love, love it. And then I actually got that from Mr. G, by the way. He has one in his room and I stinking loved it, so I went out and got myself one. Thanks, cuz. And then I kind of set over here some conference time. So I have 2 rotations in my room, rotation 7 and rotation 10, where the kids are working independently and I don't have to pull a group during that time. So I decided to create this these conference times for me to be able to meet kids and kind of conference with them if they're having some difficulties with anything. For the most part, the kids did a really good job for it today. We are giving our kids some choices, whether they're the type that likes to just be able to sit down and say, hey, I have math skills, let me go into my folder and see what my teacher wants me to do for math skills. They can do that, but we're also going to keep available this little page right here, which allows them to write down kind of their schedule for the day and then go in the morning and write down all their tasks. They still have to do it, but they don't have to do it for every single rotation when they sit down. So they do it in the morning, go through and look at all their tasks, write them down for their 2 groups, and then they're done for the day and they can just go off of the paper. So we're letting our kids have those options. Makes it easy so that if they are working on something for math but they're not in my room for math, just because of the class sizes, they can just go through Schoology and still know exactly what they're supposed to be doing, because they don't really need me for that. Like, so if they're doing, you know, reflex and they're doing something just to kind of practice, or I wanted them to go back out and do it independently, they don't need me. So it doesn't matter if they're in my room or not, so long as, you know, they're getting the work done that they need to get done, which is what is important. So I wanted to show you that really fast. I also wanted to show you, because I did not get to show you yesterday, we added a new little friend to our room. So my partner KW, I think it was the end of last year, she wrote a grant for us to be able to get a robot inside of our room, which we were very excited about. So we did get one, and we got the Lego EV3 robot. So this is kind of part of my STEM station, since I am doing the technology piece here. I have the EV3 robot for 2 kids to be able to do, and so what I've done is I've created a really ugly challenge day 1 page, so please don't look at that. But then I also have the user guide for the Mindstorms EV3, and I've kind of just tabbed some things that they need to know. So how to connect it to their tablet. I've also put in here how to be able to like program and work the lobby so that they can start kind of going through and creating and getting the robot to actually move. So they're coding it essentially, that's what they're doing. But I have this kind of station here along with my little dash, which is over here. So I still have my dash. So here's my dash. Right now they've been just kind of exploring with them for day 1, and then what they'll do is that we're actually going to take these out, place them here, and the kids are going to create a plow. So they're going to have an activity where they're going to create a plow, they're going to design it tomorrow, they'll be able to actually try it out, and if they have more time they can kind of improvise it and try it again to kind of be how long it takes them to get their cotton balls out of the area that I want it. I will show you guys more of that tomorrow once I get all of that stuff prepared. Right now, I'm leaving to go get my little birthday boy all of his stuff. Y'all may not have known this, but today is a pretty incredible and special day, because today is Blaine's 4th birthday. 4 years ago, that little terror came out. He's not a terror, he's a crazy man. But 4 years ago, that little crazy man came out, and he has rocked our world ever since. So he is at home, he's excited, he came down, there were balloons and all of his gifts were out, and we tried to kind of have it a little bit decorated so that he would, you know, get excited about the day. He's taking some little treats that we made for friends, and then we made a cake last night, and I don't know, I'm just excited for him. I like birthdays. Tonight we are planning to go to my in-laws. She is making dinner. She's gonna make him all his favorite foods, which is hot dog hamburgers, and we're gonna eat, celebrate with some cake and some gifts at the end of the day, and that's really about it. Just kind of a nice little quiet family gathering. I am starving right now. This is what I get for not eating. So this morning I am getting together a couple of my technology pieces for my STEM. My dash, which is back there, do you see the little blue guy? He is going to be a snowplow today. So I need to take out my Legos, and then I also need to take out some cotton balls, which I know I have cotton balls somewhere. Y'all, this is what happens every time. Like, here we go. I forget where I put things. So I'm gonna take out some Legos. Leave the Legos out for them. And I'm going to find my, oh, there they are. Whoop, there they are. That was ridiculous. So the kids are going to create a snowplow using Legos with Albert, which is our dash. I've kind of boxed off a little area over here, and now I'm just going to place the cotton balls around to signal snow. And the task is for them to create a plow, for them to be able to get all of the cotton balls out of the square area within a certain amount of time. So they're gonna have to do some different moves to be able to gather them, and then they're gonna kind of construct their piece and kind of test it out, and then they'll have a couple more days of being able to kind of improvise it and figure out if they can do it in a shorter amount of time. So I'm just getting that little piece ready. That's one STEM. The second one that I have is the EV3. So the EV3 for today, they're just kind of practicing with making straight movements with him. Luckily for the dash, the kids have had a lot of experience with it, especially coming from 3rd grade. They had a ton of experience with dash. So they're pretty familiar with how to use that technology. However, the EV3, they're not so used to using it. So today what they're doing is they're going to be making it go within a straight line. So they're going to start it at one point, and they're going to have to make it get up to 30 inches. So I want them to get to 30 inches, and they have to do it with so many movements and seeing how long it takes them. And then they're going to try to improvise that and make it better, and they're going to try to be able to get to that 30 inches within a shorter amount of time. So that's the second STEM for today. And again, I just leave out all these. I have to print out my second piece to it. So that's what it is. Pretty simple for the most part. It's nothing like incredibly fancy. Again, they only get like 20 minutes. So I have to kind of break things down for them so that they're like they can actually get things accomplished during that time. You know what I mean? That's what it is. So I got those 2 items ready. I'm gonna get those stems printed out and get those placed into the stations. And then I need to look at my math groups and my reading group for today, which I think I pretty much have everything ready to go. So I have my targets up here. My 2 now has become an independent block. So I'm kind of assisting other kids with anything that they need, meeting with them for conferences, because my partner took 4 and 2 moved down to 4 for me. That doesn't make any sense for y'all, but we had to do some rearranging with our schedule. It ended up working out, which is really, really good. I'm going to figure out what I can get to eat. I'm hungry. All right, I need to go print out my stuff. I'll see you guys in a sec. You know, it's a really good feeling whenever you come into your room and it's pretty much ready to go and you're like, score, like I am prepared. I've been working really, really hard this week in making sure that my room is pretty much set and ready to go for me to have, like, come in the morning and start teaching. with the exception of like my morning message and maybe a couple of other things, but it is, I mean, like, it's teachable. Like, people can come in and I would not be embarrassed of them coming into my room while I'm trying to give instruction to my first group. So I like it. Let me show you. So here is kind of my books that I'm doing with my whiteboard, and then I have a little note that needs to go to the office. I just ended up moving those from over here. These are just iPads that I need to give out, and then there's a CPM book that I need to kind of review. But for the most part, I know that this looks like a hot mess right here, but it's not, I promise you. So these are kind of like all of my markers that I end up keeping, my dash that ends up going to the very back of the room later on. These are some books that I'm either between my read alouds or some that I'm trying to get collect together to use for a group. So I'm trying to collect some more of these. I know some other people from a different school are going to be sending me some. I just cannot find these books anywhere. And then I have my highlighter toolkits that we use. I've been using them in math, and then I've also been using them inside my reading groups. So I have those there so that I can just kind of collect them, and then, you know, my math toolkits here, some more whiteboards, etc. So see, it's pretty much ready to go. This is all the stuff I just brought. So as some of you may know, the MAC team is kind of revolved around, you know, meeting individual like students and what their needs are, and at the same time we're also kind of pulling in that project-based learning piece. So we want to make everything that we teach in here like a real world application. So we've been talking about like our PBL, and over like from August, September, all the way to December, we've really been working on kind of those foundational skills, like just making observations as scientists and what does that mean. We've also been working just on like foundations in all of the subjects in general, so that we can make sure that these kids are pretty much a tight-knit family, and that we are not having to kind of stop and say, hey guys, remember at the beginning of the year we talked about this and this and this. So we've been really focusing on a lot of like those behaviors, those routines, those procedures, all of those pieces of classroom that kind of make everything work as a well-oiled machine. So I was really excited because yesterday I decided that during our like afternoon, like our 3:30 time, which is typically like our read aloud time, we pack up and it's our read aloud time, that I was not going to do my read aloud, and I was going to start presenting to them kind of our factory, and I'm going to go into this in a second. But we've already been talking about kind of project-based learning. The kids were able to come up with the idea of being able to contribute to our pantry that we have here as a district that supports kind of some of those families who are in need. And the way that they wanted to be able to support our community and help them with this, and also at the same time learn about life sciences and economics, which are the two skills that we are, like the two standards that we, I guess standards, like a social studies unit and then the science unit that we're focusing on for this year. They decided to come up with, you know, growing a garden for them and being able to like support our families with fresh fruits, fresh vegetables, that would also that would benefit them. So we come together and we've already had this discussion. They already knew that they were going to do like a garden, so this is nothing new to them. So we come down, we sit down, and I kind of get to them together, and I'm like, hey guys, I was like, remember how we were talking about, you know, like the state of Pennsylvania tells us that we have to teach you these things, you know, this is the age where you have to learn all of this stuff. And then we started talking about how we wanted to be able to apply it to our community. And so they started having the discussion of, yeah, you know, we said that we would, you know, build a garden, and why are we doing that? Well, because we want to be able to contribute to our community and at the same time give our families some really good healthy meals. And then afterwards I said, well, let's kind of pause that for a minute, because that's where we're going there. That's kind of our topic for today. It's like, I want you guys to think about a factory. How many of you have ever been to a factory, ever seen a factory on TV, and all of their little hands shoot up? And so then we started having that conversation of, okay, so here's this factory, right? Let's think about a car factory specifically. Is one person responsible for building an entire car? they started saying absolutely not. Well, why not? Because there's not enough time, there's not enough of a product, so they're not making enough money. There's not, like, all of these things started coming out of their mouths. I promise y'all, I was not telling them any of this. The only thing I brought up was a car factory. That was it. That's all I brought up. So they came up with the fact that it took too long, there wasn't enough money, so it was like a slow production, that type of thing. So I said, great. So there's more than one person that is responsible to that car. How do they kind of divide that work out between those people who work on this car? Is everybody working on the tires at the same time? Is everyone working on the bodies at the same time? So they started having that conversation of absolutely not, because then people are getting in their way. So then you have people who have, you know, a really big, like, they're very specialized in certain areas. So we had that conversation and we started talking about how for us, whenever we start to kind of start diving in, which is going to happen next week, on our like project-based learning, where we are kind of growing this garden, that we all cannot be doing the exact same thing at the exact same time, because it's not productive. It's going to take way too much time. Everybody kind of has their really skills that they feel like they're really, really good at. So then we started kind of coming up with our factory. So the kids were coming up with jobs. And the thing that I kind of presented them with one big question. I said, hey guys, I want you to think about, what is it that we will need in order to be able to grow this garden? And they were really, really stuck. And so I don't know if you can kind of see it, but you'll see all my madness. I need to take a picture of it and put it like on an anchor chart. But you'll see my madness up here, and up at the very, very top, I think it's like right there, they put down gardening, and they were stuck on it, y'all. I felt like that was the only thing that they wanted to talk about was, oh, well, somebody's gonna have to weed it, somebody's gonna have to water it, somebody's gonna have to make sure it's cut right. And I'm like, guys, all of this is gardening. So when I started writing their ideas down, I didn't really tell them anything at that moment. I was kind of just writing them down, but I was putting them all in certain areas. So like anything that pertained to gardening, I put it in one area. Anything that pertained to building things, I put it in another area. So finally, at one point I was just like, guys, we have no money. We have nothing. We don't have anything. Like, there is absolutely not one thing in this building that is gonna help us. Like, I can't pay for this for you. Our principal's not gonna pay for this for you. We have no money, no nothing. So once I said that, it's like their little light bulbs went off, and they were like, oh, we're gonna need somebody who builds the materials. We're gonna need somebody who finds sponsors. We're gonna have to have a fundraiser. We're gonna have to find volunteers. We are gonna have to, let's see, get some donations. We're gonna have to do some trade. We're going to need to get materials and builders and have maintenance. And we're gonna have to make sure that we know when, where, and what to be able to grow. So once they started doing it, y'all, it was amazing to kind of, I wish you guys could have heard this, but with my kids, just all of these ideas were coming out. And so I'm just sitting here and I'm kind of writing things together. And finally, at the very, very end, I kind of circled stuff. And I said, okay, so here's kind of what I'm seeing. The first thing I'm seeing is that you have kind of like that seller person, the person who's going to be selling our product. You know, they are the ones who are responsible for getting the money, for getting the permission from our principal, for sharing this with the community. This is kind of like our PR, and I gave them the word PR. I said, this is like our PR people. These are the people that without them, we can't get this off the ground. We can't get this started without these people. So we had that piece, and then I said, okay, now we have kind of the brains of the group. These are the people who are our researchers. They're the ones who kind of go off and they find out all the information that we need to know in order to be able to do the things that we want to be able to do. Then we have those who are the builders. These are the people responsible for kind of constructing and coming up with the designs of where we're going to be building it. Last, we have the people who actually garden it, who go out there on a day-to-day basis and they weed it, they water it, they make sure everything's kind of going the way it needs to go with the garden. And so they were all so flipping excited. Like, I so wish that I could have shown you this, but like when I was talking about builders, we have a few kids in our class who want to be architects, and they are so excited about it. Their faces like lit up. They were like, oh yeah, I'll be a builder, I'm gonna be a builder. And I'm like, I know you are. Like, this is like the best feeling in the absolute world. So then we had the kids who came up with, well, we're gonna need like supervisors and managers. So at the end, I kind of left that off to the side, and I had two girls kind of stop me, and they were like, and these are kind of our go-getter girls, they would go, so you didn't really mention anything about the managers and the supervisors. Are we gonna have those? And I said, yes, we will, but here's kind of what I'm thinking, because these different groups within this factory of ours need to be able to communicate with one another. And so it's kind of like teachers, and how each grade level typically has like a team teacher, like a lead teacher, and those lead teachers all get together every once in a while, and they kind of have those conversations between all the grade levels. This is that same idea. So what we're probably going to end up doing is having a manager, supervisor, something to that extent in each of these big areas. And so when they come together, you know, the person who does the research says, hey builders, this is kind of what we have found, is that we need to have this type of structure, and it needs to be in this certain area, and then that lets the builders be able to go and continue their work after that. We also need to make sure we have like the fundraisers, so those who are building can come up with the PR people and say, hey, this is what research is telling us we need to have. This is how much money it's going to cost us to build this. We need you guys to go back out and kind of get these funds so that we can go out and start this project. So we're gonna have to have those kind of supervisors, managers within those groups to be able to start having those conversations together to be able to keep this thing rolling. Because if each group stays in isolation, they're never going to get anything accomplished, and if they do get something accomplished, it's very different from what everyone else is thinking about. And it was funny because we're all sitting there afterwards, and I'm like telling my husband this because I'm also excited about it, and he goes, you know, it's so funny because it sounds a lot like what a JA BizTown is going to be. And I said, oh my gosh, it really is. Like, you can imagine each of these little parts is its own little building, and then you have a CEO and a CFO in each little area that have to come together and have to have those, like, they have to communicate with one another. So it's just really, really cool, and I love how it truly is real world application, and I'm really excited about it. So today we're going to kind of finish up having some of those conversations, getting kids the ability to be able to start looking at, you know, what is it that I feel like I'm really, really good at? We already know we have some kids who are the researchers who are going to want to dive into, hold on. Hello? Ooh, transformer explosion. Yikes. My son's bus is going to be late. What was I talking about? Sorry guys. Phone, bus, don't remember what I was talking about now. So today what we decided to end up doing is we're going to kind of get together and allow these kids to be able to start talking about what is it that I feel like I'm really, really good at. Because we do have some of those kids who are the researchers, and they just want to dive into the research, and they want to be able to kind of be the scientists, the researchers of that group. We have other kids who are really passionate about that architecture and they want to build. We have some kids who just like leadership roles, and they're very organized and they like to have those presentations. So that's obviously going to be their kind of area of expertise. And then we have those kids who are going to just love to get their hands dirty and dig in the dirt and plant things and be those people who are out there kind of getting it done. So I don't know, I'm really, really excited about the possibilities and where this is going to be going. I don't know, it just makes me happy. So today we're going to finish up having the conversation about each of the different areas, start allowing the kids to kind of think about what exactly is kind of their area. I was even thinking of getting them to kind of write something and say, hey, this is kind of my area, this is why this is my area, almost like a resume type deal. And then from each of those little areas, we're going to have those kids who are going to be kind of like those leadership roles, who are going to be able to communicate with one another. So they do have to have those communication skills, they have to be organized, they have to be detail oriented. So we're gonna have those kind of talks within, like, as teachers, and then as each of the little groups start to kind of come together, which is super exciting. Let me show you guys what my board looks like. So here is kind of the hot mess. They ended up coming up with, you know, the not enough time, not enough product, not enough time. Then we had the gardeners, the builders. These are all of their ideas. Well, I wrote letter to the man. The man is the principal. The cutting, the weeding, the watering. I don't know. They did a really, really, really great job yesterday. it got me really, really excited about our project-based learning piece. So today is Friday, which I'm very excited about because we have a 3-day weekend. I'm sorry I didn't vlog any at all yesterday. I think it just kind of caught up to me as far as like my sleep schedule, because I got behind with Blaine's birthday and then also with our schedules and just everything that kind of was new and changing here inside of our classrooms. And I was just really tired. Like I just felt tired. Like I felt like tired. So I spent the day kind of resting and just trying not to overexert myself. So it was nice, it was good. Today is gonna be pretty much a normal day. I don't think anything as much is gonna change. I do need to get my STEM activities together. So I'm gonna start kind of getting those printed off. I have a faculty meeting this morning, and then I think we have food, which is very important. I've been spending a little bit of time this morning getting together my targets just like on our Schoology website, and I decided that I wanted to show you guys kind of what it looks like. I have to be a little bit careful because there's a lot of information on here that I cannot show you, but this is what our targets look like. So if you remember, we had targets that were posted on our whiteboards. Now we've kind of changed it to make it put on our Schoology site so that the kids can just kind of get to it without having to go into the room, so they can just kind of pull it up on their computer. So when they go into like my math folder, they're gonna see 3 different pieces. I only teach 2 math rotations just because of our schedule. So I have my CPM group, and then I have my algebra group. So if my algebra group was supposed to go in there, the very first thing that they see is their learner tasks, which are the week for this week. Every week I will end up moving this down into a folder that they're not going to be able to see. So there's going to be like previous learner tasks down here. So I will just pull it down and then create a new one for them so that I can kind of have it as a record. So they'll go into it, and this is kind of what it looks like. It'll be labeled Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then it's broken down from unit and then independent. That is not correct. It's broken down from unit to target, and then it has their independent math of what they're doing during that time, and then it's also telling them what they're doing during their math skills time. So like for instance today, here's their unit. They're working on algebra unit. Their targets, they're going to interpret the rule for function tables and explain their thinking. They're going to continue working on gizmos during the math skills time. They have this really awesome like function tables, like exploration interactive math that's online, which is really cool. So the kids are going to do that, and then I have them completing a functions tables practice independently, and they have to turn it into an assignment in this folder. So when I go to create my assignment, so they're going to go into algebra. Right now there's not much except for the gizmo items, but I'm going to create an assignment here, and this will pop this little thing up, and then I can just put my name first so that I know that I need to grade it because I share it with 2 other teachers. I'm going to put Spackman, and then I'm going to put function tables, practice. So now I have that piece in there, and then I can do complete the function table practice page and submit to this assignment. Something kind of generic-y. Sometimes I go into a little bit more depth depending on how much it is. I could add a due date, and then we have to add our categories here. So like for them, they're working not on that one. Where is my, I don't think we have one yet. So I'm gonna do grade for algebra, and then I am going to do it on a percentage for the mastery scale, and then I can always assign it to my kids, so I can individually assign so not all the kids are seeing it, and it doesn't say that all the kids have to turn that in. So then I can kind of create it, and then the kids will be able to submit it here. So this is where they'll go to submit their assignment. So that's kind of a look into how we kind of use Schoology as far as just with our learning targets, assignments, those types of little things. I don't put a ton out just because we have Schoology, and you know, we make a push for Schoology because our parents can go in and also kind of see what it is that the kids are doing. So a lot of it kind of goes off of there. I almost think of it like a blackboard. So if you've ever been, so when you were in college, or if you still are in college, it's kind of like your blackboard system. So like teachers can go in and kind of post things and you have discussion boards. It's the same idea, but I like this one better. So I am gonna get ready to go to my meeting in about 7 minutes. I have my materials ready for my first group. So they have kind of, they're working on a few words there. So I have kind of my pans from when I was in kindergarten out. I also have some handwriting sheets that they're gonna be practicing with their handwritings for those fine motor skills, because they're still working on some of those. And then we are reading our book as well. So I have that out ready to go. So my first group is ready. Then I have a break. So I am gonna pull some kids that needed kind of some reinforcement with some math skills. So I'm gonna pull them during that time for about 3 to 4 minutes, and then kind of get that out and let them kind of go back out and continue finishing whatever it is that they have to finish during their rotation. I feel like I'm talking really fast. Sorry. All right, guys, I'm gonna head out in just a little bit. So I hope you guys are having a really, really, really wonderful weekend. And I'll talk to you later. The kids are at special right now, and I figured I'd just kind of do a little catch y'all up on some things that are kind of going on in the classroom. We are pretty much done with all of our rotations, all of our like actual small groups. The rest of the end of the day ends up being just our read aloud time, which is really, really nice. I wanted to show you guys this. If you follow me on Instagram, then you've probably already seen it, but I absolutely loved using highlighters for this. So I'm gonna pull like one of my kids' stuff. Sorry about that, y'all. Okay, somebody ended up coming in my room. So anyways, like I was telling you, if you've been watching my videos for a while, or you follow me on Instagram, then you've probably already seen this, but I like to have highlighters. So I have like an all-purpose highlighter toolkit. So I've seen a lot of these like on Instagram and on Pinterest, where people say, you know, oh, this is like my reading, you know, highlighter kit, or this is my writing highlighter kit. But I feel like highlighters are universal. You can use them within all different subjects, in a wide variety of skills. So I just did an all-purpose highlighter toolkit so that my kids can see the connections and see how kind of they relate to all of the different subject areas. Anyways, so we were reading a story, a short story on the Little Red Riding Hood. And I'm going through, and with these kids, we're looking at now the inciting incident. So we have like the exposition is what I teach. The inciting incident, which is like the point between the exposition and the rising action. So I teach exposition, inciting incident, rising action, climax, falling action, resolution. And we kind of went through, we talked about it, we created like an example of it. And then finally we went through and we started reading it. We kind of had like those conversations about which of the different areas we found like of the elements of plot within the story, and then the kids got to go through and highlight it. It was a really nice visual for them. They were able to kind of pinpoint the certain areas that they were looking at specifically for the elements of plot, so it worked out really, really well. So I wanted to show you this one. So here you can see that she highlighted the exposition piece there, and then she has, sorry, this one's like bleeding through, this is from the back. Here's the inciting incident, then we have the first rising action, second, and then we have the third back here, along with the climax, the falling action, and then our resolution, which is down at the very bottom. So today what the kids got to go and do is they took their map that we kind of created here, and they went to fill in their plot map. I felt like it was a really great lesson. They really enjoyed it. They liked using the highlighters, and it really kind of helped to make it more concrete for them. Does that make any sense? I hope so. But I just wanted to share that because I thought it was really, really cute. So yay for highlighters. If you are curious and want to look at this product, I do have this available. Inside of the product I have kind of different areas for which I use them. So it's kind of like it's a little ring of cards, and on each card it has like the different areas that I'll use it in. So some are for reading, some are for writing, some are for math, and it just kind of helps you get an idea of how I would use these highlighters within all different areas. So I will leave a link down below so that you guys can go and check this out in my store. The kids have gone home, it's the end of the day, and what I figured I would do is, because I have been getting so many comments about my individualized schedules video, if you haven't watched it, make sure you go back and watch it so you can kind of get a little bit more of an insight on how we kind of developed these schedules and why we ended up developing them. But I thought that I would take some time and just kind of answer some of the questions that people left on that video. They're great questions. I just feel like I can't answer them completely just by typing it. So I'm gonna take some time, answer through them, but first I want to talk about, again, why we ended up going to these individualized schedules. Not that anything was going wrong with what we were doing. I think what we were doing was just fine. However, we noticed that the kids that we needed to spend, I think somebody's gonna come in my room. However, we noticed that the kids that we needed to spend the most time with were our intervention kids, and those kids were getting pulled. I think she's gonna come in my room. She did come in my room. So like I was saying, it wasn't as if what we were doing was not going well. I think what we were doing was going well for us. However, we started to realize that some of those kids who were having those interventions, because of where our interventions are for our team, they were getting pulled for the entire reading block, and then we would have to pull reading at 3 o'clock. Well, we already know that those learners don't do the best at 3 o'clock. Like, that is the hardest time for them to get focused, and it was hard for us to get focused, and you have kids coming up to you asking questions. It just wasn't a really great time for us to be pulling those. So we had talked about last year about having these schedules, but because we really wanted to make sure that we got the routines, we got the procedures down, we had down like what our expectations are as far as the MAC team goes, it wasn't something that we wanted to like do at the very beginning. We needed to kind of ease ourselves into it and say, this is what the MAC team is. This is very new for all of us. We're all kind of getting used to it. Here are the expectations. Here is what the routines are going to be like. And we set that ground in the first semester. What's wonderful about our program is because we have these kids for all 3 years, is that the kids that we already have now that are right now 4th and 5th graders, they're gonna be our 5th and 6th graders next year. We're gonna easily be able to roll these schedules out for them next year. For the 4th graders, like the incoming 4th graders, we might have to have it look a little bit differently for them, but we already have a group of kids that are already pretty much trained in it. So we basically spent that very first semester really focusing on kind of the routines, procedures, what we wanted MAC team to kind of look like and sound like, and I think we accomplished that really well. So when January rolled around, and while we were kind of on break, we said, you know, I would really probably like to pull out some of these schedules again, because those kids who do have those intervention times, why can't I just pull them in the morning and meet with them for reading in the morning? Because that's when they do the best. For those kids who have, like, you know, gifted and band, I'm missing times with them because their reading time is during when I have small group with them. So why can't I meet with them at a different time? It doesn't really matter that if I'm teaching math that everyone's out there doing math. I don't think so. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that if I'm doing reading, I have a couple of kids that are doing math independently. It doesn't matter. You know, I'm still their teacher. I can still assist them with any questions that they have. This is just a way for me to be a little bit more flexible with their needs and to be able to work with them a little bit more. Plus, I can individualize that schedule with them more. So the kids who don't need math skills, they don't have math skills. I give them more of an independent block. If the kids who need word study, I give them their word study times. The kids who don't need it, then we don't give it to them. The kids who need a little bit more time in math, maybe we give them more math time. Maybe we give them more reading time if that's their struggle. It's individualizing it for them and their needs and making it to where it's going to help them succeed more. So that is why we ended up going into this kind of schedule block. It helps us be able to meet with all of our kids so that the interventions and the times when they're getting pulled for like activity periods and so on and so forth are not conflicting with our small group times. And so far they seem to be doing okay with it. It also helps them to start learning how to prioritize and organize themselves. So they're looking at like, oh, this is what I'm doing from this time to this time. Whereas when during this big block time, we would say, hey, you guys need to get done reflex this, this. Well, they're spending 40 minutes on reflex. And we're like, well, why are you spending 40 minutes on reflex when you need to be getting X, Y, and Z done? So this is a more of, during this time, this is what you are getting accomplished. During this time, this is what you are getting accomplished. And it helps them stay a little bit more focused. So I figured what I would do is I'm going to go through and just kind of answer out some of these questions that you guys had, because they were fantastic questions. So Aaron Jones left a question of, enjoyed the video. Do your students take these folders home or do they just stay at school? Any ideas for those kiddos that leave their books, homework, etc. at home or in their parents' cars? So the folders that she is talking about are their work in progress folders. So these are the folders that I talked a lot about in the last video. And inside, what we did is we took 2 pocket folders and we attached them using one of those book staplers that go all the way down the middle. So they have 4 pockets available for them. And then on the inside, we put their schedule kind of individualized here so that they know what they're doing on each cycle day. So it may end up changing if they end up having band or gifted, or if they have some other activities that they have to complete during certain times. So they do not take these home. They will leave them here at school. We have a separate folder for them to take home, which is a black folder. We call it their communication folder. That's the folder that they'll take home back and forth. Typically, I know what you mean about those kids who are always like, well, I left it at home. It's in my mom's car. It's with my dad. It's in my mom's house, so on and so forth. It happens all the time, especially with iPads. We are 1-to-1 in my school, and these kids will leave their iPads or they will not be charged, and they suffer the consequences for them. I say, you know what? You chose to not remember this. You chose to forget this. You chose to not, you know, charge your iPad because your home iPad was way more important to you. So now the consequences is that you're going to have to complete all this work that you already did on your iPad. Now you're going to have to complete it on paper, and you're going to have to do the work for today. So they have to kind of double up on the work, and they suffer the consequence for it. I mean, it is what it is. And then at one point I remember just saying, you know what, from this point out, every single time you just don't remember to bring something in, you're gonna stay in for recess until you start remembering. And that would kind of get some of them in gear. But for the most part, no, they do not take this home unless some of them come up to me and ask me, hey, can I take home my folder? There's a lot of work that I would like to get done. Then we give them a permission to do it. But for the most part, all the kids leave them at home or leave these in school, and we do kind of have those kids who have to suffer some consequences just because they don't remember to bring things back and forth. Allison asked, do you think this type of workshop schedule could work in a classroom with 1 teacher? Any advice on how to start that? I think absolutely this could work with 1 teacher. I think it would actually work the absolute best with 1 teacher versus multiple teachers, because then it's not so hard in trying to figure out who's going to go where and how they're going to go. If it was 1 teacher, this would have been a breeze coming up with their schedules. So yes, I do believe that you can do this. Here's what I would do. I would start the same way that we started, is we kind of looked at small groups take about 20 minutes. So we kind of broke our schedule up into 20-minute blocks. So we said, well, it's, you know, from 9:20 is when we start to 9:40, then 9:40 to 10 o'clock. I'm about to sneeze, I'm sorry. So I would definitely kind of look at your schedule, break it up into those 20-minute blocks, and then from there think about your kids and some of the needs. Think about those kids who get pulled out for interventions, and do they get pulled out of your room? Do you have somebody else that comes in and works with them? Because those are the kids that you're going to want to work around first. Get their schedules and their small groups placed in first, and then start placing some of your other groups in there. What we did is we looked at how many math groups and how many reading groups we had, and then we kind of placed those in throughout the day. So I knew that I had, you know, reading group A, and those reading group A kids, they got pulled for intervention. So I needed to make sure that it was during a time that was not being in their intervention time. You do not have to have all of your math block together or all of your reading block together. So even if you have some of those kids who you say, oh my gosh, this kid does not do well with reading at the end of the day, like they don't do well, put them in the morning. It's going to be okay if you have some kids who are working on math while others who are doing reading in the morning. It's not a big deal. Those kids are working independently, practicing those skills that you've already taught them, so they should not need any teacher assistance. That's the purpose of practicing those skills. They are reinforcing what you've already taught them. It's not like they're having to teach themselves something new. So work with those kids who have those schedules, fit in some of those, then start looking at some of your other kids and, you know, as far as when do they do certain subjects the best. Do you need to have certain kids who are doing STEM? There are some of ours that we said, no way can we do them in the afternoon because they would not be responsible with it. So we put them first thing in the morning. Then we had some of more of our responsible students be able to contain themselves, do it in the afternoon. Or maybe you have those kids who need to be more engaged and STEM is going to engage them, put them in the afternoon so that they're focused and on task versus them kind of getting off task with, you know, independent reading or something to that extent. But then also look at what are some of those items that you want your kids to accomplish on a day-to-day basis. Well, we want to have independent reading. We want them to be able to practice skills independently for math. We want them to have word study and kind of start filling some of those other schedules in for them. And we took it very, very slow. The first couple of days we sat down and we said, okay, here is what this looks like. Here is what this sounds like. When you're at independent math, this is what this looks like. This is what this sounds like. When you're at word study, this is what this looks and sounds like. We went through and set those expectations, so you may not pull like small groups. You may have something very easy during small groups that day, and then just kind of walk around and just make sure that kids are on task doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing. It's almost like when you are launching reading workshop, it's the exact same idea. You slowly get them used to it, adding tasks to it so that they are getting more comfortable and more familiar with it. But to answer your question, absolutely you can do this inside of your own classroom with one teacher. I think it would actually work the absolute best in that area. You have certain kids who are reading, certain kids who are doing word study, some kids are doing math, some kids who are working in small groups. So everybody's working on things that they specifically need. So Jackie asked me, how will you manage the time for each block? I'm notorious for thinking an activity will take a shorter time than it actually does. So when I do my plans, I do my plans differently. I don't look at my plans as Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I think of it as an actual lesson. So a full-blown lesson from start to finish. So if I'm doing a short story with a class, with a group, and we're talking about plot, I'm not going to be able to teach my entire small group plot lesson in one day. There is absolutely no way. I use scaffolding in order to teach it to them. So I think about, well, the first day, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna read the text, we're gonna talk about it, we're gonna kind of add some of our thinking down. The next day, we're gonna come back together, we're gonna revisit plot and the elements of plot, and then we're gonna do this part of it. So I think of it as a full-blown lesson. And then what happens is I kind of go through that lesson each day. So I say, okay, well, I was able to read today. Great. So then that means tomorrow I can go to doing this. I had one group, I think it was yesterday, and so it started yesterday. I had these hopes and dreams that we were going to read and do all of our highlighting for our plot, and it did not get done because the kids were having a really great conversation and I don't want to nip that in the bud. So I ended up saying, hey guys, I had plans that we were going to finish this entire lesson today, and your independent time was going to reflect us finishing this so that you would complete your plot map. Unfortunately, we didn't get there, but it's okay because I'm just going to give you extra time to read. And they were so flipping excited because they just wanted to read. So I kind of adjust it and make things work, and I don't really plan it out. I'm going to do this Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I think of it more as a lesson, and then I kind of stop it wherever I need to stop it based on how much time I have, and I'll just tell them, hey, we'll pick up from here, and it's not that big of a deal. So I just kind of plan it and look at it a little bit differently. I hope that kind of helps to answer some of your questions, but that's just what I do. Carly asked, do your students ever have science or social studies. So yes, we do have science and social studies. So because we are a MAC team, we have 4th, 5th, and 6th grade, we are a little bit different when it comes to science and social studies. So what we ended up doing is we took all 4th, 5th, 6th curriculum for science and for social studies, and then we broke it up into 3-year cycles. So we have cycle 1 year, 2, and 3. We are on cycle 1 right now, and we said, well, we're gonna look at just life science and economics. Those are gonna be the science and the social studies piece that we're gonna focus on for this year. Then next year, we're going to look at 2 different pieces. It could be geography for social studies and earth sciences for science. And we teach all of the curriculum for 4th, 5th, and 6th in that year. So the kids are all going to get 4th, 5th, and 6th curriculum for life science and for economics. Now when we teach it during our writing and content block. So we have an hour of time to be able to teach writing and content. Before we went to this schedule, our writing and content block was very separate, because for writing we were working on narrative, so we would have our narrative time, then we would stop, and then we would pick up our science and have like a normal science class. Because of our project-based learning piece that we're going into this week and this next week, we are integrating it. So our science and our writing is going to be very much together and combined, because we're learning about informational, we're writing about informational. So the kids are going to have it very integrated, so that hour time is going to be more of an hour time of science with writing integrated inside of it. So we do have it, it just looks a little bit differently for us. And then the kids also get STEM, which is another piece, but I feel like that's like an added piece for them. It's not just their only science and social studies time. So I think that was all of my questions. I hope I was able to answer and kind of clarify some of the things that were kind of going on in your head, and maybe you didn't want to write down a comment. And if you did write down a comment, thank you so much for kind of sharing your questions. I hope I was able to answer some of those for you guys, but I'm really loving the schedule so far. I'm really excited to go into next week with our STEM and our project-based learning and just the schedules and just everything else. I need to get some rest from it, because I feel like my body just needs to catch up from having to do all of the schedules and the folders and just everything that's like the change with it that comes with it. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. It was a little bit of informative for you. I am here to say that I'm going to have a video posted on Wednesday. So guys, please come back and check out this channel for Wednesday. It's going to be a more focused video. I want to start getting some of those. I felt like I kind of got away from them this semester, and I want to do them more. I enjoyed them. That's kind of what started this entire channel, as I was doing some of those focused videos and then adding in the vlogs, and I want to go back to doing that again. So come back, check me out on Wednesday. I'm going to have another video up. If you enjoyed this one, make sure to give it a thumbs up, guys. Share it out on social media. Come say hi to me on social media, and I will talk to you all really soon. Bye. Enjoy your weekend.